Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of A Few Short Minutes, the pod, where I just want to remind you it takes literally a few short minutes a day to really, honestly, rewire your brain for a more beautiful, positive, whatever you want to say here, joyful life. And so today, you guys, I've got Julianna of Into the Fold podcast. Let me tell you a little bit about Julianna. She is an enthusiastic, energetic friend to all. She brings joy and fun to everything she does. When I was reading this last night, I was like, yes, this is going to be so much fun. And let me tell you even more why. So she's a podcaster. She's been doing this for a long time. Look at her setup. She's putting me to shame. Good for her.
This is an average setup at best, honestly. I have friends who literally have they've turned their closets into a full-blown audio zone with the padding and everything too.
Yes.
I'm like, oh my goodness, that is far beyond me.
That is extra.
Yeah.
Maybe one day.
Yeah.
Maybe one day.
Yeah.
So she's a podcaster. She's a runner. Oh my God. I don't run unless somebody's chasing me. She's a Harry Potter nerd. Hi, I'm a Ravenclaw. She's a Hufflepuff.
Okay. Nice.
So yeah, she's a demisexual. For those of you that don't know what that's about, we're going to ask her because I think that conversation needs to take place a lot more often than it has been lately. A dietitian. She is a spondy, so she has ankylosing spondylitis. We'll have ask her about that as well because chronic pain. She lives on Cape Cod. Beautiful. I do love me some Massachusetts people. She's got a pittie named Myrtle. My 3 are sleeping, not pitties, but my dogs are sleeping. They might pop up. And her podcast is independently produced by her and her best friend, Jeff, with a G. My ex-husband's name is Jeff with a G. So fascinating. Yeah, that's okay. We co-parent pretty well.
Okay. It's a mutual. It's an okay situation.
It's an okay situation.
Not a terribly fiery, toxic thing.
No, I'm not going to start crying about that now. Yeah, we're good. So she manages a local running store, which she loves doing, and then a registered dietitian. When she's not walking her dog, podcasting, or talking about all things Potterverse, she's running more. She's crazy, clearly. And she's done 2 Boston marathons, a New York City marathon, a Chicago marathon, and she's going to Tokyo next. Yikes. Good for you. Right. That is wild, girlfriend.
Yeah, yikes is the correct response there.
Yikes is the correct response there.
Yeah.
I don't race. I don't run unless somebody's chasing me. And then if only it's life threatening. Because if you're like, I'm going to tickle you, I'm going to be like, okay, come tickle me. But if it's for my life, maybe.
Yeah, it's a certain flavor of crazy when you start running marathons. People are like, oh, I wish I could do that. I always tell people, I'm like, you have to, there's a certain version of crazy you have to want to be outside running for 4, 5, 6, 7 hours at a time. It's a certain flavor and brand of crazy. It's not for everyone.
No, I feel the same. And then the people that do ultra marathons.
Oh my God.
Another brand of crazy.
People think that marathon, basic, I say basic in the nicest way possible. People who run road marathons are insane, like New York, Chicago, Boston. Then you go and you see these people who are like, I'm going to go run 100 miles and traverse an entire mountain the entire time and then walk down a giant path of rocks in the middle of the night by myself, and I will not see anyone for 20 miles at a time. And I'm like, no. Please, no.
I would rather walk through the Bronx by myself in the middle of the night. Honestly.
Yeah, same. And that's not a fun place.
It's not a fun place. It's not a fun place. Yeah, these people are like, I'm going to run 100 miles in the desert. What?
No, thank you.
Thank you. No, I think you should maybe see a mental health professional.
I'm good. I'm really okay. Really fine.
Yeah, I'm good. Let's talk about your spondy. I think that's important because chronic pain isn't talked about enough, and I feel like sometimes when people get that diagnosis, that label, they kind of give up on I did for a while too. In all honesty, I did because I was like, I'm never going to feel better than I do right now, which isn't true. It could be true, but it isn't
Yeah,
always true.
you
But
can't
I totally
guarantee it.
bought into that, right? And so I slowed down a lot. And some of it I had to, and I had to
Mhm.
relearn how to do things. But a lot of it was a mental game. So talk about um, ankylosing spondylosis. I never say it
We
right.
can
I'm
just
so
say
sorry.
A. We'll just say AS because I
Yeah,
pronounce it's I find it extremely comical that the person who has spelling-based dyslexia gets the name that she physically can't spell the disease. Like I can't spell my disease state name. So I'm just like people are like, oh blah blah. I'm just like AS. Like I don't even know how to say it. I don't know how to spell it. Just call it AS. We're both on the same page. Uh,
I know what you're talking about. We're
it
good.
makes it easier. But yeah, I definitely am in the same camp as you too, where I definitely like when I got the diagnosis came after I had a traumatic knee injury, which is kind of I've found from talking to other people with other chronic illnesses is that you'll have like one big event that will kind of like cause your disease state to go from dormant to like really active and
Yeah,
full on flaring for the first time in your life, or
right.
that you've like really had to deal with it hardcore. And that's kind of what happened to me. And I got the diagnosis and I was like, that's not what it is. Like, it's not what it is. I like, no. And the more research I did into it, the more I was like, oh yeah, I have been just like a creaky, stiff person my entire life. This new pain is a new level of pain, but it definitely is it's stuff that's been there. It's just worse versions of stuff that's been there the whole time, you know.
Totally how I felt when I got diagnosed ADHD last year. I
Oh
was
yeah.
like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, no, I'm not," and then I was like, oh, okay, okay, good, alright, here we go."
Yeah. Yeah. As
So
someone who also has ADHD, I feel you on that one too. I'm just like I was like, I don't think I have ADHD. And then the more I learn about it, I'm like, wow,
I totally have
wow, wow. Like I have a bunch of podcasts that I do listen to that are ADHD podcasts, and I just feel so seen every single episode. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, like I keep my toothbrush in this one spot because if I don't put it back in that one spot, I will forget where it is, and I can't find it anywhere if it's not in that one spot where it lives." I'm like, "Uh huh,
Yep,
same,
yeah,
hard
yeah,
same."
oh, yeah, like, I have to leave it out because if I don't, I will forget that
Oh
I
yeah,
brush my teeth, like
yeah. When I go on vacation, I'm so screwed half the time. The first day, at least, I do like a little setup wherever I'm like stationed, and that's why when I go vacationing, I like to have a home base. I am not one of those people who's like, yeah, I'm going to go to this city and then change hotels and then go to that city and change hotels and then go to that city and change hotels. I'm like, no, I need to keep my stuff in one spot because I will forget to take every single medication that I am on if I do not set them up immediately when I get there and leave them out,
right,
because I will come home from a fun night and be like, I don't know, like I'm just going to bed, whatever. And I'll
yeah,
wake up the next morning and be like, everything is fine. And then I get like halfway through the next day, I'm like, oh no,
oh, no,
oh
oh, no,
no,
no, exactly, exactly.
that's a
Oh,
problem.
no. Yeah, it's, neurodiversity is amazing.
Yeah, it's a
It's
wild time.
amazing. It is a wild time. It is a
Wild
wild
time.
time. So AS,
Yeah. So,
explain that for the people, that don't understand what AS is, and how does it affect you particularly?
yeah, so I kind of describe it as more of a fancy arthritis, more or less, where eventually I get to become the Hunchback of Notre Dame. So I am on the lookout for a church to haunt when I do get older. So please, if you have any like open churches that need haunting, hit me up in like 30, 40 years. I will need that.
I hope you're
But
practicing your line,
yeah,
whatever catchphrase that is,
yeah,
"He has
yeah.
spells.
I
What's gonna
gotta
be yours?"
I haven't brainstormed exactly, but it might just be like a simple like get out of my church, get off my lawn,
Get off
something
my
like
lawn.
that. Yeah, get off my lawn. That's always a good go-to for a cranky old lady. But but it essentially what happens is your spine ends up fusing together. So what they are watching for on me currently, and I actually have to get x-rays at least once a year, is spinal fusion, and it starts at the bottom of your back. So eventually that's what will happen to me. And it kind of manifests itself in back and hip pain for most people as like the starting point, and also then kind of just like most arthritic and chronic pain conditions do, they find other parts of your body where they like to hang out. For me, it's like my knees and my ankles and my hips. Sometimes you get issues in your shoulders and your back. I also, like most people, most people who have a chronic illness, it's not just that one thing. There's a bunch of other things that kind of come along with it too. And you'll find that people with AS are also prone to have like chronic like bowel issues. I have IBD as well too. I was like, okay, great. And also like skin issues. I get weird like dry skin patches. I was a kid who had really severe dandruff when I was like 10 years old. So it kind of, there are other things where it manifests itself, but for the most part, AS specifically is that spinal fusion, which can then just lead to a lot of stiffness and pain. There are a lot of people who end up getting like hip surgeries, knee surgeries, end up being with mobility devices more or less just because their mobility isn't great. But it's also a condition too where honestly movement is the best treatment. So staying active and staying moving is really, really crucial to staying functional as someone with AS chronically. So I definitely like if I didn't run marathons or like wasn't physically active in some capacity, even only as like a 30-year-old, I would probably be in like a wheelchair at this point, just because if you don't like lube up those joints and lube up those like bone areas every so often, it's more painful. And people ask me, they're like, Julianne, isn't it like, because anyone who runs a marathon tells you they weren't in any pain the entire time, they're flat out lying to you. Don't listen to them. Say goodbye. So anyone who runs that far, like there's pain involved. Yeah.
Yeah.
But for me personally, it's more pain to be sitting for like an hour and a half than it is to me to be running for 4 hours, because my body just gets so stiff that if I go to get out of a chair, I'm like literally like stuck in that position. And I'm like, I'm like ranking my body apart because it's gotten that position. It's like, okay, we're good. And it kind of just like fuses itself into that spot, which is not a fun time. I don't recommend it, but
No, it sounds so counterintuitive too, of like, I have pain in my hips and my knees and my ankles, so let me go run a marathon.
Yeah.
That like totally
I
is
mean,
the
not
opposite.
not the most like conventional recommendation for everyone with AS, but for me personally, it works. But a lot of it is like a lot of you like the AS specific physical therapy and just exercise programs are more along the lines of, I would say, like walking and kind of like Tai Chi, like smoother movement based things, and a lot of stretching, keeping your joints loose and moving throughout the entire day, even if it's just like just continuous gentle movement of just like, okay, every half hour I get up and I do like my set of like 5 stretches and then we call it a day. Like that's way better. You don't have to go run a marathon, but that's like a million times better than just sitting and not doing anything if you have AS. So but it is counterintuitive though. It doesn't really make much sense where you're like, oh, I'm in pain, so let me just get up and move around.
Yeah, let me move more.
Yeah, and it just from my personal experience and any other people that I know with AS and being part of the Spondylitis Association of America, because I do a few things with them too, because they provide some great resources to me. So we like to give back. It's a fun time, but it definitely it's pretty solidly researched that movement in some capacity is beneficial.
You're an RD. What about diet? Does that affect it? What have you done for yourself?
Yeah. So the interesting thing about diet right now is that one, generally speaking, nutrition is a new science, meaning it's only come about in the last like 100 years or so that we've actually started to have any substantial research like into the nutritional world via like scientific experimenting, just doing experiments with and without human beings. And two, there's not really much research out there. One, specific to AS, and two, specific to AS and diets, and three, it's so hard to do nutritional research studies. I actually, when I was in college, we had a research study that was going out of my college, but well, just at a baseline, doing research is hard. You have a lot of attrition. You have a lot of people drop out, no matter what study you're doing or whatever the subject
There's
is.
always attrition, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, people always leave. It's just a thing. But it's so hard when it's a food-based thing because food is so emotional, and people don't realize that until all their food is being controlled for them, and they either like they're all in or they're like, oh my gosh, it's Christmas, why can't I have what my family is eating? And there's also there's so much out there in the world that we haven't even been able to touch yet. So a lot of people actually have found that like if they go gluten-free, it helps them. If they eat less meat, it helps them. If they do X, Y, and Z, it helps them. And generally speaking, for most people, eating more plant-based versus more animal-based foods has kind of been like the general push for anyone with any kind of chronic illness, more or less. But there's just not great scientific research for really any chronic condition out there that's not like, say, like seizures or heart disease or diabetes, things that have been like well researched for like a good amount of time now at this point. There's just those like smaller, I'm going to call them like niche little pockets that they haven't really fallen into, or things that like chronic illness are so individual from each person to each person. Like no two people with AS are the same. No two people with like MS or say like migraine or anything like that are the same. And so it just makes it really hard to figure out. There's no good blanket statements, I think is what I'd like to say, but definitely if you're interested in working with a dietitian, I would highly recommend it, just because someone like myself is trained to know a lot about food in general and the nutritional like science side of things, like how that interacts with our bodies, and also be able to have the conversation with you of like, hey, let's just try a few things out, and being able to be someone who has knowledge as to, okay, you said X, Y, and Z. This is what I'm hearing you say. This is what the science says. Maybe we should try these other things to kind of help you out. And it's no like it's like trying a new medication. Like you can have all the science behind a medication say it should work for your condition, and then it just doesn't. And that's just how it is. Sometimes you have to try a few different medications before you find the right one. Sometimes you have to try a few diet things. And also, again, food is very emotional. So a lot of the times it's a combination of food plus emotions plus stress. Like stress is a big thing with chronic illness too. It's like people like they stress themselves, and I know I'm guilty of this. I will not.
Yeah.
I will not wipe my hands of this.
I stress about the stress that impacts my condition that I stress more about.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I
beautiful.
was currently this morning, I was already having a stress. I was like, I can't get anything done. I was like, oh, that's because you have ADHD, Julianna. You're having a hard time focusing recently. But I'm like, yeah, but I can't get anything done. And just get mad at myself in a circle. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
It's frustrating.
Oh, 1000% girlfriend. 1000%. I was this morning I had a coaching session, and I was like, you need to. And I was like, damn, I am bossy today.
Yeah.
And I was like, I am so sorry. Something must be like, something's off kilter. I was like, please understand, I'm not trying to boss you around or like talk to you like you don't know. You do what you want. This is your life. But here are some suggestions. But yeah, I noticed like some days I'm more of a control freak than others. Some days I don't get anything done.
Yep.
It's just this constant like the roller coaster. So much fun. So much fun.
Yeah, we love it. I mean, when you hyper focus for a little bit, you can be like, yeah, look at me. I just like conquered the world in like 20 minutes. And then you go for a whole day. You're like, wow, I think I stared at the wall for a full 24 hours.
Oh, yeah.
And easily. I just thought about like oatmeal for like 24 hours while staring at the wall. And that was today.
Oh, I feel so seen. I feel so seen. Thank you.
I mean, yesterday I was like, oh yeah, I'm doing everything. And like, I have like stuff, like I had stuff on my calendar like this today and a few other things I have. One of them luckily is to talk to my longstanding therapist, Anne. Shout out to Anne. We love her. I've been working with her for like 7-8 years. She's great.
I've done my own of 10 years in June. So yeah, I get it. I have my own Anne. She's Cheryl.
Yeah.
But God love her.
Cheryl. We love them both.
Thanks for keeping me and Julianna somewhat together.
Yeah, partially, as much as we can be, you know. But
paper bubble gum, but hey.
But like I got up this morning, I was like, oh wow, I can't focus on anything. And then the day just kept going, and I was like, nope, not happening. No, okay, great, yep. Like I was sitting in my car, like I went to go to the post office, and I'm like, okay, all we have to do is drop off a package. I have it labeled, and I just like I'm sitting in my car scrolling on my phone for like 20 minutes. I'm like, oh yeah, I was getting out of the car, wasn't I? All I had to do was walk the package in. It was labeled. I didn't have to talk to anyone. All I had to do was put it on the counter and like walk out. And I was like, oh, nope. Well, yeah. We're just going to like scroll Instagram for like 20 minutes and just like, and then realize we're on the planet Earth and we're sitting in our car still. And we have not moved.
Still at the post office. Got it.
Yeah.
Great.
Still here. Still that package I meant to also deliver yesterday which again didn't get to because ADHD in life. So
So much fun.
it's
It's
fun.
so much fun. Oh my
So fun.
gosh. Yeah, girlfriend, I feel so seen. I feel so seen. Um,
Yeah. But just to like wrap up the dietitian side of things,
yeah,
very individual. So there are some things that help a lot of people. I would encourage anyone who has a chronic illness and one, trying to eat more plant-based foods just on the whole for anyone, even without a chronic illness. That's just kind of a general recommendation. My other recommendation to people would be to try and eat the rainbow. That just means if you have a plate of food and it's all brown or it's all white, try and add some color to it because that usually just means fruits and vegetables. We try to eat some fruits and vegetables, and just drink water. Like drink water. Let's just do it. A lot of people. I mean, I will say, the whole Stanley Cup thing I don't fully get, but I'm a
however,
little bit. I'm a little bit older for that, but I do. I highly support hydration. So there we go. Yeah, I have a
I mean,
water bottle in every location in my apartment, and like everywhere I go, I have like the water bottles assigned to every part of my like life. There's the car water bottle, the work water bottle, the kitchen water bottle, the desk water bottle, the bedroom water
no,
bottle, the
this
treadmill
is
water
my
bottle.
emotional support water bottle. I'm
Mhm.
not a millennial, I'm late Gen X, but I've totally embraced the millennial emotional support water bottle because
Mhm.
and I live in Vegas. So
Oh
as of
gosh,
right now it's not bad, but in
it gets
June and
hot.
July when it starts getting 100 and 100 plus,
Uh-huh.
this is a necessity. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
even in the winter, I don't leave home without it, even for a trip to the post office.
Oh yeah.
Um,
No, I have my Camelback that I bring with me everywhere. That's my carry around water bottle. That's my emotional support water. I've had it since college, and I just like periodically replace the little like nubby thing at the top.
yeah.
But it's
If
great.
I if I had a Camelback from college, it'd probably taste like vodka and bad decisions. So
That's one of the few water bottles where I've specifically ever only put water in because I just like I think I got it. Yeah, I got it when I was in high school. Like Camelbacks were like really popular, so I got it like at the end of high school. That was like the popular. That was the Stanley of then.
yeah,
So I got that, and I was like, "This is an expensive for me as a high schooler. This is an expensive water bottle. I'm not going to ruin this. I love this water bottle. It's purple, which is my favorite color. It has I put stickers on it, and I was like, look at me being a cool college kid with a water bottle with stickers, you know." And I've just like that thing has been I've through everything, and I think I only almost lost it once, and it was when I was in college, and I remember it distinctly because I got back to my dorm room, and I was looking for my water bottle. I was like, oh my God, where is it? I cannot find it. Like, I was looking at a tiny dorm room too. So there really wasn't where much space to lose it in. And I was like, oh, I was in my pajamas already. I was like, oh my God, I think I left it in organic chem class. And so I ran across campus to get my water bottle from that classroom. And I got to the classroom, and the football team was watching replays of their last game on in the classroom. And I just like I saw my water bottle like on the other side of the class. I was like, I'm just getting I'm like in my pajamas. I'm just getting the water bottle. It's fine. And they're all just like, what the hell is going on?
you should
So they're
have
trying to just
just been like, "Yo, pass me the.
someone chuck me the water bottle.
I'm going long."
Field goal. I know that. Yeah, that's a football thing. I'm terrible with sports.
Yay, sports ball. Uh,
Yay. But yeah, so drink water. It's good for you. But just to wrap that up too again, um, if you are wondering what's best for you when it comes to diet, I would say either hit me up. I'm happy to give people a few small recommendations. I do also take private clients too. So if you're looking for a more in-depth thing, that's all good. But try and find a dietitian because that's where you're going to get the best personalized information. And I'll tell you the best way to tell the difference between a dietitian who's going to give you a personalized plan and someone who is just like trained as a nutritionist or has like just a little certificate and they haven't really looked into the science side of things, is a dietitian will tell you if you're like, oh, should I eat only carbs? They'll be like, well, it depends. And if you ask someone who has like a nutritional certificate or like a little bit not as in depth, they'll probably be like, yeah, that's good. They'll kind of do like the
that's
yes, no.
a definitive answer.
Dietitians are infamous for being like, well, it kind of depends what's going on. We have to get more information on that first, which honestly should be the right answer, I think. So, because
Yeah.
you're not the same as me and I'm not the same as you, and we shouldn't be eating the same things for our health. So,
I mean, anybody questioning her legitimacy, did you catch the part where she said she left her Camelback in organic chem, which
yeah,
is a
people
week out class? Anybody that's ever taken it, it made or broke them. Like,
See, biochem was the worst for me because we had a
oh,
professor. So it was honestly, it was the professor because Dr. Croach? No, it was oh god, what's his name?
crotchety. Dr.
No,
Crotchety. Sounds
yeah,
like it should be.
yeah, we'll just call him Dr. Crotchety. But he must have been bringing in so much money for the school in his research because he would purposely fail half of his class in biochemistry. Like he made it so hard that you physically could not pass his exams unless you spent like at least 20 hours a week studying, which I did because I was like, I'm not retaking this. You can't make me do it. I will not retake this. Did I go into ADHD hyperfocus? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. But, but he would legitimately fail half of his class every single semester he taught it. So every single semester, the new class would be half of his old students retaking the class because he was that much of a jerk. And like I said, usually they don't let professors do that. So he must have been bringing in bank for the school in his research. I don't know what he was doing, but like something enough where they were like, yeah, that's fine. We keep him. It's okay.
He got the Bursars Award every year for like
Probably.
most revenue created or something like
Well, I mean,
that.
I guess he's kind of bringing revenue up for the school by making someone take a class twice that they technically would only have to take once usually.
Yeah,
So,
and that ain't a cheap class between the book and the lab and the lecture.
oh God, no, yeah. Like people, that's one of the things people don't fully realize about like science specific classes is that one, you get the same amount of credit as the people who are taking non-science classes without labs. So you still get the 4 credits or whatever it is, but you're in a lab like an extra like 6 to 7 hours a week, plus writing these lab reports that are not fun to write. And like the books are usually like 4, 5. I'm sure they must be like 600, $700 at this point because I was in college in 2011. So I can only imagine that the books now are like $700 a pop because they were like 500 when I was there.
It's ridiculous. Oh my God. It's
It's not
so
okay.
wow. So if anybody was questioning whether or not she knows what she's talking about, I'm going to say yes.
I bought many $500 books. Thank you very much.
How very, and this like, how very Hufflepuff of you. I mean, that
Yeah.
is so on brand.
Yeah.
I can't, like, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. We love books. We love just like cozy things and stuff. But yeah, and you're a Ravenclaw, so that's
I'm all right.
exciting.
Yeah, very much Ravenclaw. I kind of wanted to be Gryffindor just because, hero of the story stuff.
Mm,
And
mm,
I took the Sorting Hat like a million times and other online quizzes on Potterverse, and every fucking time Ravenclaw.
Ravenclaw.
So I
You
was
know,
like, all right, well, cool, black and purple. I'm down.
yeah,
I'm down.
Ravenclaws are fun though because Ravenclaws are like usually very smart in a way that's witty and also just intuitive and also ingenuitive. So you're like fun, but you're like coming up with new things and you're always looking for something to explore. And I feel like Ravenclaws make the best judges because a lot of Ravenclaws, they're not there for the drama, more or less. They're there for like the informational side of things and they can provide a more like unbiased opinion and a good breakdown of what's happening in the world. So I feel
Yeah,
like Ravenclaws make good like judges, good news reporters, good like investigative journalists, things like that.
that explains my true crime obsession since I was three.
Yeah, there you go.
Since I was three, or it was probably more like 7, but still not
Yeah,
in the latest cool wave of,
yeah, like way
everybody's.
back.
Yeah, no, my grandfather actually was a wrecker driver, a tow truck driver, and
Uh-huh.
so he always had a police scanner on so he could go when
Ah,
needed. I mean, we lived
uh-huh.
in a tiny ass town in Oklahoma, tiny town, so there weren't like big conglomerates dispatching people. So
Yeah.
he would listen to the police scanner and go, "Oh, sounds like they need me." And he'd get in his wrecker, and sometimes he'd take me. But I just remember sitting next to the police
Uh-huh.
scanner every night that I was with them and listening to break-in entry at Choctaw Lane or whatever. And it's
Hmm,
just
hmm.
yeah, that started
Yeah.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Ravenclaws like to know what's going on. They like to be informed.
yeah. I do like to be informed. I do, which is
Mm.
probably why I ended up with a degree in psychology and now I'm a coach.
Yeah.
That kind of
Yeah.
makes sense, right? Like,
Yeah. That all checks out for me. I like
yeah,
it.
why people do what they do, and what's the motivating factor behind that, and all of that kind of stuff. Now I just use it for habit change, particularly around negative self-talk. That's kind of because what now I know to be true about neurodivergence is we're actually a million times harder. There's a percentage out there. I just don't remember what the actual
Yeah, I
percentage
can't
is.
remember
We're like a million times harder on ourselves than neurotypicals. And
Mhm.
it was devastating to me, devastating when I
Yeah.
was, years ago. And so now that I've been able to kind of quell it by 75, 80%, life looks a hell of a lot different. And so that's exactly what I hope other women do now, because
Mhm.
it's a game changer for me, for sure. And I'm sure with your knowledge of being an RD and being a spondy spoonie, for those that identify as spoonies with their chronic pain, and being a runner and ADHD, like that all kind of makes sense why you do activism and you
Mhm.
help people in the way that you help, because you've been there and
Yeah.
you've done that. And so that experiential, um, that experiential learning is worth its weight, as
Yeah.
right up there with your college degree, I'm sure.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. I mean, I feel like equally with, like, things that I've done with my college degree, I've just helped other people with just my general baseline knowledge of, like, trying to figure out mostly just me trying to figure out what the heck is going on in my own brain, more or less, and then me also one of my biggest things with mental health and just my personal goals for myself, because my goal, like, I don't really do New Year's resolutions. I
yeah,
used to, but I'm just, like, kinda like, "Eh." I'm more in this place where I'm like, I'm just gonna like vibe and just kind of like go with it. But my like big goal for myself, like on the whole, continuously, has been to be a little bit more Juliana every single day. And that doesn't have to mean be a lot. Doesn't have to be anything substantial. It can be just like, oh yeah, like I picked like the purple thing over the green thing, and like that's cool. And just trying not to, as much as I can, because it is hard. And I'm sure later today, Anne and I will have the conversation about my family and how, like, that anytime I go do anything with them, I revert back to old Juliana that I don't like. And,
1000%.
as you do when you like step back home into your childhood bedroom or something like that, and you're like, oh no, here comes all the trauma just rushing back in again. Oh boy, here it comes. Uh, and you get
Brace
smacked.
yourself.
Yeah, you get smacked in the face with like 30 to 40, whatever years of childhood trauma, which is always just so enjoyable when you're trying to have a nice Christmas. We love that. But just my goal has just been to be like a little bit more Juliana, because I feel like I spent so much time masking because of ADHD. Now looking back, trying
Mhm.
to be someone I wasn't, just because I didn't realize I was masking. I was just always uncomfortable. I've always just been like weird, and I say that in a nice way. I don't find I like when I say weird about myself, I don't mean that in a weird way, in like a mean way. I mean that like there like how many other like people named Juliana who are big Harry Potter nerds who go to conventions, who also spend their time running marathons and just love the Little Mermaid. How many of those people do you know? None. None.
I
Just
know
me.
one now.
Just me.
She's pretty
Uh,
amazing.
but like I've just always been like that. I've just always been. I like looking back into my childhood. I'm like, oh, I was just trying to like hide that like oddness and not actually embrace it. And I find that the more I embrace how just like quirky and odd I am, the more I like it, and the more I feel like myself, and the more also like other people around me like me. I always like to say too, the sexiest thing that you can be is confident. Like people who are confident, whether it's a bad way or a good way, as we've seen with the big giant yellow orange man who was in the presidency for a
Uh,
while,
yeah.
a big orange baby. Uh, confidence attracts people. Like when you are confident in yourself, other people are drawn to that. And I feel like the more I become myself and the more I'm confident in myself, the more other people are just like, yeah, it's a nice time to be around Julianne. I think a lot of that is too. The more you're confident in yourself and the more you are being yourself, the less you hate yourself inside. Like I meet so many like because I live on Cape Cod. It's one half of Cape Cod is a giant retirement community. The age here skews very very old, and I mean by very old I mean like 80s, 90s old, like that version of old. But I have these little ladies who come into my shoe store and they're like 70, 80 years old. And they like, I had this one lady the other day, she's like, oh, I don't want to like show off my calves in the store. And everything she was saying to me, I was like, you've hated yourself your entire life. Like you still hate yourself. And you're like 80 years old, like, and you still actively hate everything about you because everything that comes out of your mouth is just a self-conscious thought about how other people are looking at you. And you're not just here to have a nice time. Like, that's so sad to me.
Yeah, my God. Yeah, I spent so many years hating myself. I still struggle. And I'm really
Oh,
honest
same.
about it. Still struggle. I don't want to be 80 and having that conversation. I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is. I know every day I'm a little bit more Stacy, and so maybe
Hmm.
that is the answer. But Jesus Christ, I don't want to be 80 and worried about showing my calves off. Like,
Yeah, no, you don't want to you don't want to be that person who I mean my mom kind of falls into this category too. Like my mom's whole family is very like self-conscious of everything that they do. They're those people like you raise your voice a little bit too much in public and like as
no,
people might have guessed from listening to this podcast, I talk it I just talk kind of loud. I have like two volumes on my voice. It is this volume. It's like this. There's literally no in between zone. There's like literally no in between zone. And I can yell real loud, which is great because I also like race announce. So I announce like the end of marathons, half marathons, 10K. And like even the other night we had an event at my store and like I can shush a whole room like without a I don't need anything. Like I'm good. I got a real loud voice and I know it. But like me talking at this level, like sometimes I get shushed by my family because like they don't want any attention on them. They just don't want like anything. They don't want anyone to think they're like weird or like causing trouble or like doing anything. And I'm like, I'm not causing trouble, but like, yeah, I'm kind of weird, but that doesn't mean that
it's
like
bad.
it's bad. And I mean, for me personally, I've just kind of come to the conclusion over the last more or less like 5, 6, 7 years that if I'm having a conversation in public, there's probably someone else hearing me because
Ah,
I just have a very loud, distinctive voice. And I honestly, I play to it. Like I know how to play a room and I'll like wait for like the laugh cues from the audience essentially while I'm talking. Because I know there's at least like 5 or 6 other people who are listening. And sometimes I'll get like a chuckle out of people and I'm like, aha, you hear, that's right. You heard what I
I'm
said. I'm funny sometimes.
Mine's very similar, except for what I remember is the laughing. So,
Mm,
God, Stacey, you laugh so loud, or shh, don't laugh so loud. What?
yeah. I love people with
Seriously?
loud laughs. I love a loud laugh.
Like you're gonna tell a kid not to laugh loud? The kid
Yeah.
is enjoying herself. She's loving life, and we're gonna stamp that down because people might be like have
Upset.
their tail, their rough. Like what am I trying to say? Or
Feathers
fear.
ruffles.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Feathers ruffled. Tail feathers ruffled is what I was trying to go
Word
for.
finding is hard. I
Yeah,
feel you.
ADHD.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, and I just look back on it now, and they'll still say it to me. I'm 47. They'll still say it to me.
Yeah.
But I remember, being 10,
That's so
being 10.
sad.
It's just, man, seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel so bad for like kids who I mean it's less the kids now, but like just the kids of like your generation, my generation, like all the generations pretty much above, like millennials enough, more or less. Some of the other generations, but like we just were so monitored by people to stay within certain norms. And it's still a thing, obviously, here,
Yeah.
especially like, I mean, I'm going to Japan and wow, they love to follow a rule there. And there's so many standards that I've just been like, oh, I can't even blow my nose in public because that might distract someone. Yeah,
What?
you're not supposed to blow your nose in public. You can't eat while you're walking. You can't drink while you're walking. You can't blow your nose in public. Um, you're supposed to like no conversations on a phone while you're out in public at all,
Okay, well, I'm down with that one a little
which
bit,
is
but
fine. That's okay. I'm not bad
yeah.
about that. But just like very conscientious of like every single thing that you do, more or less, which I think in that society is okay because everyone is on board with that and that's what you grow up with and it's very much so like they're kind of treating the whole as bigger than the individual, which here in the United States we treat the individual as much bigger than the whole and then we try to act as a group of people and it just doesn't work out because we're all used to being our own independent like thing. But I'm very, very, very interested to see because I'm going to Tokyo in about a month because the marathon is March 3rd. So I'll be there the end of February. I've never been to Asia before in my life. I've never been to Japan at all. But I'm very interested to see how people react to me because I'm a very loud American. I'm not rude. Like I'm just like, man, I'm not going to yell at anyone. Anyone time I go anywhere, I'm very polite because like I've worked in the service industry for so long that I just like I want to make sure anyone who's like I know that anything that's bad that's happening, it's not them. It's either someone who's like way above them that they have no contact with in any capacity, or it's just the system itself. Like if a bus is running late, it's not their fault. They didn't do that. Don't be mean to that person. They didn't cause the bus to be late. Like if anything, like you're gonna get more flies with sugar than you are vinegar. Like you're totally like if you're nice to this person, they actually might put you on a faster bus or something. They'll pull a stop for you that they wouldn't have if you were just like screaming at them. Whereas they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is running late. But thank you so much for being here, Jenny. Thank you so much for like all your hard work. I really appreciate you. That person, if you tell someone that, they're gonna be like, thanks. Do you want like a stick of gum or something? Or like, do you want like a like they're gonna yeah, they're gonna be nice back to you. I'm a big component of just kind of karma. You get in what you get out, more or less. And it's like if you put a good out energy out into the world, you're probably gonna get one back. And if you put a bad energy out in the world, you're probably gonna get one back. So just kind of like try not to be a jerk if you can.
Yeah,
That's
no.
kind of my thing.
Exactly. I had a podcast release today, who the woman that I interviewed is a LGBTQIA parenting coach.
Oh,
So
cool.
parents that have queer kids, what do they like? How do they support them in this world? And so
Yeah.
the interview was beautiful. She gave me a lot to think about that I just don't have as my own awareness. I don't have queer kids. I'm not queer at
Hmm.
all. I have friends, but that's not my experience. And so she gave me a lot of food for thought. And I got my first trolls today. Like
Oh, yeah.
5 or 6 comments that were like, oh, woke kids need to, oh, you're the downfall of America and all of this stuff. And I was like, and first of all, my people pleasing went off the charts
Yeah.
of
You're
like,
like, oh
I am
no.
not safe. And then I was like, oh, you know what? Fuck that. And I
Yeah.
was like, you know what? You can have
Yeah.
your opinions, please. I'm glad that you think differently than
Yeah.
what I do. That's the beauty of this place. Just don't be an asshole.
Yeah, well, that's my thing too. Like, I'm happy. Like I do identify as queer, and I'll talk about what that is in a
Yeah,
second.
yeah, yeah.
But like, my big thing with people being themselves is that it's not hurting you. Like, don't make it your problem if it's not your problem. The fact that someone identifies as bi, they identify as transgender, they identify as demisexual, lesbian, any format of queer, any format of like mental health condition, anything. I always tell people you can identify as a cardboard box. I don't care. As long as you're not hurting anyone, the
Are you
more
an
power to you.
actor
Would you like
box?
support in being that cardboard box? I will get you the best packing tape I can find if that will make you happy.
Get you a little bow. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll
Just
get
be
I'll get you a nice address label. It'll be great. You'll be the best cardboard box there is out there. And I support that because you're just doing your thing. You're living your life. You're not doing anything mean to anyone. It's don't make it your problem. All these big old nasty ass white men out there who are just like, yeah, women's bodies are my problem, or these like queer kids. This is my problem. It's not. It's not. It's really not. Like just walk away. Like if you walked away,
keep
you would
scrolling,
never
buddy.
even have to see these people again. Just
Yep.
walk away.
Keep
Just do
scrolling.
it. Yeah, just keep going. No one asked for your opinion.
Yeah.
None of their existence hinges on your existence. So just go. Be gone.
Yeah. So I replied.
Bye.
Bye. I replied
Bye.
to everyone, thank you for your comment. Thank you for your energy.
Yeah.
And that's just what I gave back because I'm like, you know what? Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks. The algorithm, like, first of all, the
Yeah.
algorithm brought you here.
Yeah.
So
So it's
there's
working.
that. And secondly, you just pushed my video out further with your comment. So for something you
Mhm.
hate so much, thank you for promoting it,
Yeah.
jackass.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
My favorite response is I hear you. I hear you.
I
And
hear
that's
you.
it. I hear
Good one.
you.
Oh, I might have.
Or I saw you just a comment there like, oh, I saw this.
Yeah, I saw this.
I
Thanks.
saw this.
Okay.
Because that just me that's literally just acknowledging the fact that you either heard or saw what they said, but it's not giving them anything to like it's not
Nope.
like they can be like, I can't believe she said that she saw what I wrote. It's like, yeah, she saw what you
Better,
wrote.
Martha. It's okay.
Wow.
Yeah, and I
Calm
just thought,
down.
I thought, man, these people feel so attacked. How do those queer kids feel?
Oh, it's off. I just like there's a special place in my heart for like specifically transgender black females identifying people where I'm like, you just hit the trifecta of just like not really the lottery at all. Like, can I get you like a drink? Do you need something? Like,
Emotional support water bottle?
yes, would you like? I had brought my extra water bottle with me. May or may not have vodka in it. May or may not have vodka in it.
You may want it. It does have
You might
vodka
want
in
this.
it.
But yeah, they're just so like I just feel so bad just because I know so many people who are queer or who are in that space, and especially being in the Harry Potter space too, with J.K. Rowling being a transgender turf and just having to navigate that on top of like everything else that's also going on in the world, and people from the outside not really understanding what's happening, either people who don't understand what she's doing and being like, yeah, JKR is great, or people who are transgender activists who haven't really fully looked into it, which is okay, it's fine. Just being like, she's the absolute worst, and anyone who associates and themselves with Harry Potter in any capacity is also a TERF. It's like, well, no, it's not. No, it's not that either. Like, there. These are the two extremes. Like, there's a gray zone here. There's a
Yeah.
gray zone here. And honestly, I like to say that J.K. Rowling played the biggest like joke on herself, because the funniest thing to me, this is the best part. 99.9% of her Harry Potter fans are queer in some capacity. Like we have like if you looked at like the hardcore Harry Potter fans, we are so fucking queer. It's like not even funny. And it's just like she's like, I hate these. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, have you talked to anyone like that read your books recently? Like, have you tried? Like, it's the biggest fuck you out there to her, and I love it. It's my favorite thing.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that tracks because all of my friends that are huge Harry Potter fans are queer in some
Yeah,
way, shape, or form.
yeah,
That
yeah,
tracks.
yeah,
Hmm. That
yeah.
is hilarious.
Yeah, she
Talk
kind of gave herself the biggest fuck you she could. So you know what? Sometimes you get what you give, and that's just like that's what it is.
there's a beautiful slice of karma for you, JKR.
Hey.
That is phenomenal. So talk about demisexual. Talk about, you
Yeah.
self-identify as queer. I don't think people understand these are
It's
new
it
conversations. Pansexual, demisexual,
yeah.
what's the asexual,
Yeah,
sorry,
asexual.
you know, uh,
I'd
whatever.
I'd have to like honestly go back and like yeah, then obviously it'd be like your classics like lesbian, gay, um, uh, non-binary, things
Queer.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
um,
So talk
there's a
about
lot of flavors. There's a lot of flavors. And I will say also too, it's a system of identification that is constantly evolving, constantly evolving. So even me, who like I'm pretty steeped in a lot of the LGBTQIA plus stuff, like I constantly am learning something new, constantly learning something new. So it's like don't feel out of the loop if you don't know what's going on with any of this stuff. Just
good.
try and
The best
like
ally possible, but
yeah,
yeah.
I'd say like the best thing to do, honestly, is if someone tells you that they identify as something, like have them just like in their own comfort zone, like talk about it with you. Be like, oh, can you like, I'm curious about that. Can you explain like what your experience is like, and be nice about it, and just be like, if you feel comfortable about it, I'd love to hear what that's like for you because I just don't understand. I've never met someone who's identified like that before, and
Yeah.
that's really interesting. So just like being open to hearing new information and not judgmental about it, I would say is the best way to go about just kind of expanding your repertoire for things LGBTQIA plus. But yeah, so demisexual, the best way I like to describe it is that uh, I have a little key that opens to like my like sexual needs more or less. And you have to be a friend. Like I have to like feel emotionally invested in you. And it's more or less kind of like a friendship level thing first before you can unlock that. So I can't I'm someone who like one night stands are not a thing for me because
Yeah,
like it
you're not
gives me
like Tinder on a Friday for the hell
yeah,
of it.
yeah, like I'm not like someone can come over and like screw me and I'm just like I feel nothing. There's nothing inside my soul. But if I really like emotionally invested in our relationship together and you like hold my hand, I'm like, ooh, sparks. Like that's kind of like it
I'm
is
getting
ooh, this
famous.
is getting spicy. So think it's a lot like all of my sexual desires and my like needs for like that thing, kind of thing is very emotional and very, which is also again very Hufflepuff and very relationship
For
driven.
laundry.
So definitely, again, I can screw two different people. If one of them I'm invested in and one of them I'm not, the first person who I'm not invested in, I'm literally going to feel like I'm like fucking a box. Like I'm not going to care at all. The second person, I'm going to feel like I'm like exploding, because in the good way, because I just has that emotional connection. And that's something that there are a lot of like different identities in the queer spectrum that get kind of like overlooked because people are like, well, I'm not gay. It's like, well, I mean, just because you're not gay doesn't mean you're not queer in some way. And I feel like most people end up being at least a little bit queer in some capacity because I feel like human sexuality isn't as like binary as we want it to be. There's just like men like men and men like ladies and ladies like men. And even if you go, it's so funny. I love this is one of my favorite things. When we get like the Trump supporter people who are like, men should go back to the way men used to be and manly men don't exist anymore. And I'm like, let's go back to 1605 where men were wearing these little tiny booties that are heels and they have little frills on them and they also wear wigs. Is that the men? Is that what you were talking about? Because I love a man like that. I would love a man with a heeled boot and a nice powdered wig.
And a nice powdered face as
Yes,
well, and
yeah,
rouge,
yeah,
right?
and a rouge. Yes, they're wearing the
Yes,
rouge.
and
Someone,
the false mole. Or we could
yeah.
go to Highlanders
Mm-hmm.
who run around in kilts.
Guilt. Yep, yep. Or like even if you like, God forbid, read the Bible or something like that, or one of these like ancient texts, there's a lot of gay things happening. There's like a lot of gay things happening in these books. I mean, a lot of it, I'm sure there are a lot of lesbian things happening too, and other people of other gender identifications. They just were not the people who were given the rights to attend public school and to learn how to write. And that's kind of where we run into issues at that point. But if you read these male centered stories that are written back in like 605 or like BC times, or even like around the AC, like when Jesus was there, like, or the Bible kind of stuff, you're like, oh yeah, this man just had like little boys around all the time, and they would all just like walk around naked in his house. It's like,
Rome.
yeah, like Rome is like the big one too, where they're like, yeah, the emperor has like all these little boy servants who just like please him and walk around his house naked. I'm just like, yeah, so that's the manly. This is what we're talking about, right? This is
Yeah,
ancient
stuff,
manliness. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I
yeah.
cannot
Okay,
wait for comments on this video because
yeah.
it's going to be just right up there with Jennifer's
Oh, yeah,
video.
bring it. I don't care. Like
Let's
I
go, Cole. Let's
give
go.
give it to me. I would love to. If you would like to comment below as to what you think a manly man is, I will find the perfect like little picture for you of someone in like 1605 wearing a really nice set of boots and a real great patterned wig for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But
Let's talk about your podcast. Speaking of my podcast,
yeah.
talk about Into the Fold, and explain what Grishaverse is for those that don't know.
Yeah, so as you all might have guessed, I'm a pretty big nerd, and I say that in a loving way. I love being a nerd.
Same.
But essentially what our podcast is we're doing kind of like a book club style read through of a series of books that both my best friend and Jeff and I love a lot, and it is the Grishaverse books. So if anyone saw the 2-season, sadly canceled after 2 seasons, it might actually be going to a different network, but we're waiting on that show on Netflix called Shadow and Bone. This
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That's right. I knew the name, but I was like,
Yeah.
"Why do I know this?" I loved it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly, like as a fandom as people who are very well versed in the books, like we know our books left and right, back and forward. We like anyone who I've talked to, including my friend Jeff and I, we both and everyone else loved the TV series. We loved their interpretation. We thought it was great. It's also a TV series that you can go watch. You don't need to read the books. It's still a fun time. So,
Yeah,
you
Netflix did. It was beautiful. I loved
yeah,
it.
they
I
did a
haven't read.
great job. We actually
Yeah.
got to talk to the visual supervisor, effects supervisor, and it was so cool to talk to him and get him on the podcast, which was awesome. So, but essentially what we are doing is we are taking the books that Netflix series is based off of, which it is, how many books in total is that? It is 3 plus 4, 7 books total. We're currently on book 4 of 7, and we're doing about 2 to 3 chapters at a time You read the chapters, and then we do a book discussion on the podcast. Jeff and I are both wild human beings. It goes off the rails a lot. We love to talk about drag queens. We also love to just do random weird voices. Both of us love to do little singing bits. We have fun games that we put in there.
My version of you both.
Yeah. And Jeff and I are both very high key ADHD. So it's a fun time. We have a lot of fun. But if you're looking to get into a new YA book series that is super enjoyable, I would say Leigh Bardugo, who's the author, is very good at writing. She has her YA book series that she's written, which is this one. She also has a very adult, very adult, very triggering, but very, very awesome book series called Ninth House, which is awesome. We love that. So if you're looking for more of an adult read, highly recommend that. We might get to that at some point in the podcast. We haven't decided yet because it is a big tone shift between that YA series and her adult books. A very big tone shift, but still a great writer. But if you're looking to get into some new YA fantasy books, or you've read them already and you're want to listen to someone talk about them in a very fun, funky way, where we like to just invite other people onto our show or listeners to participate. We always have a listener participation question and love to read our listener feedback. So we like to make it as interactive as we can. But if you're into that, we would absolutely love to have you come and listen, come and interact with us, because our favorite thing is getting DMs on Instagram, getting emails, getting all these things from all of our listeners, because that's what makes it fun, and Jeff and I have actually taken our podcast, I think we've done 2 live episodes at cons, because both of us go to conventions.
Fun.
So
cool.
We just did that over the summer twice. And then we have at least right now one other spot where we're going to be next year doing a live podcast episode as well too. So we just love to invite in anyone, involve the audience, have a fun time, but definitely come and check it out if you'd like to partake in any of that nonsense.
Clearly super inclusive as well. So
yeah, I will say one of the best things about Leigh Bardugo as an author, and why we love her so much, is she includes people in her stories. There's a lot of characters there's one of the main characters in the book we're reading now, Kaz Brecker. He has a known disability, but you do not mess with Kaz Brecker. He will break you in fucking half. Does he have a cane? Yes. Is he kicking ass? Yes, he is. We love him. But yeah. She just includes people who are queer, people who have disability, people who are literally every single nationality in her stories. But that's not the crux of the story. It's just a thing that's stated, and it's part of their character development, but it's not one of those books. It's okay, this is a book about being gay. And these are gay people who are doing gay things. It's no. There's a much bigger, much more complex, much more fun storyline happening here, but all these characters have their own very intricate and real feeling personalities that I will say every single character she writes, for the most part, I think give or take 1 or 2 characters, are extremely morally gray. There's no way to even tell.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely morally gray.
Yeah. Very, very morally gray. Again, this Kaz Brecker character, you end up loving him, but he's done some shit. He is not clear in any format of the word, but it's just, she's very good at that. So I will say, if you're looking for a book that's also inclusive, and Jeff also identifies as non-binary, so we do talk about LGBTQIA plus things. Again, we love to talk about Drag Race. It's one of our favorite things to talk about too. So we love some good queer culture too while we're out there.
Love it. I love it. So you guys, inclusivity. If you're looking for community and you love YA or the adult version, go check out Into the Fold. Now the names make sense. The Fold. Yeah. Now the name makes sense.
Yeah. Now that you're thinking, you remembering what the TV show included, the big giant black thing.
Black. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was splitting Robka in half. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So go check her out. And then if somebody wants to work with you, Julianna, talk about what that looks like. We'll put all the links below, so you guys can go connect with her and that. But what does it look like to actually work with you?
Yeah, so I would, for most people, we would set up a 1-hour consultation to start with. So I would have some conversation with you, be it over the phone, be it over social media. My biggest platform is Instagram, which we'll link below. But I like to talk with people first, kind of give them like figure out if we're going to be a match at all. And if we determine that between that conversation we're a match, we'll set up a time to do like a 1 hour consultation where we're kind of like break down what's happening, talk to people. My biggest thing as someone with ADHD is that I don't like to give too many people too many goals at once, because I know that if you give me more than 2 or 3 things to focus on, I'm not going to do any of them, not a single dang one. And I like to make it as interactive as possible too. So one of my biggest like shticks that I kind of end up leaning on is what I call resetting your default settings. So we'll kind of like talk through what's going on, what your goal is, help you identify things that you're doing without thinking about them. Those what I call default settings, the things that you do without thinking about them, either on a day-to-day basis or when you're stressed, that aren't helping you reach your goal. And we'll kind of try and reset them. Yeah. So what that could be is like, just for like an example, say like someone I'm working with is like, yeah, I'm trying to control my diabetes. My blood sugars have been going off the charts, and we talk through their diet. They're eating pretty well for the most part. And then they're like, oh yeah, I have a Coke every lunch and dinner. And I'm like, yeah, that's
Maybe.
probably something that's not helping.
Might be.
And so that what that would look like is like us identifying it and then being like, okay, so tomorrow, if you can, have half Coke, have half a Coke at lunch. You can keep the dinner Coke. That's fine. Half a Coke at lunch. Their other half's going to be a Diet Coke. And just like slowly like breaking it down piecemeal and being like, okay, a couple days from now, we're going to do a full Diet Coke at lunch, and we're going to do like a regular Coke at dinner. And then getting to the point where it's either like, it's just the Diet Coke, it's fine, or we've like switched to water or some other beverage that's a little bit better, but just slowly breaking away those habits. So that way that becomes your new default setting. So that way, when you are stressed or you go to do things without thinking about them, you grab the glass of water instead of grabbing the can of Coke without thinking about it. And that's kind of what I like to do with people, is like kind of work with them and be like, yeah, let's make it so the healthier choices are the ones that you don't have to think about. And though, so that way, when everything else is going to shit, at least some of your health is not going to go fully with that.
Yeah. So you're coaching them at the same time. You're not just giving them, this is the diet, this is what's happening.
Oh, no.
Go for it. You're coaching them at the same time, which
I hate writing diets.
Yeah.
It's just, it's not practical. Like telling someone what to eat every day, like as soon as you let them go, they're just going to be lost.
Well, because there's no habit change. They're literally relying on you and your information and their hand holding.
Yeah.
And I love that you're coaching them.
Yeah. And it's just like like if I came in here and I was like, everything you're doing is wrong, Stacey. We're going to restart from scratch. Like, you're going to be so thrown off. You're not going to know what to do. All your focus is going to be like, you're going to be like, what the actual fuck is happening? Yeah. And I my big other thing too is like, meet people where they are, wherever they are. Just like keep doing it. And my other like last kind of like shtick that I kind of lean on as a dietitian, and these are all just like Julianna alone stick. Most dietitians you find probably aren't going to be in the same.
That's why I'm surprised to hear that you're coaching them along it, because usually that hasn't been my experience with RDs.
Oh so, no, yeah. When I went into college, I had a lot of people telling me, they're like, "Yeah, I've never seen a dietitian again." Because she was like so mean to me. I was like, you know what? I want to be that dietitian that people come and they see, and like even if we like have to have a tough conversation, I want them to leave feeling like positive about themselves. Because another thing that happens with people, and this is my last shtick, is that people come in, they're like, oh, I'm doing everything wrong. I can't believe it. Like, they just like so hard on themselves. And I like to turn to people and be like, well, you're sitting here alive in front of me, so you must be doing something right. Like, if you were doing everything wrong, you'd be dead. So like, well, you're doing something right. There has to be something right. And I like to point out to them and be like, hey, this is great. I love that. I love a compliment sandwich. We love a compliment sandwich here. So we'll do like, hey, I love the fact that you are like getting up, you have your water bottle, that's on you all day, you're drinking it. That's fantastic. But let's maybe at lunch today, let's have that water, and let's just like leave the Coke in your locker. Just bring your water bottle instead. But killing it on the water game. Just like, yeah, great job.
Yeah, so, celebrate the small wins for sure.
Yeah, compliment sandwich. You throw like, say something they're doing right, you give them a critique, and then you throw in a compliment at the end, and they're like, oh yeah, wow, I feel good about myself. Look at me drinking water. I think I can do more of that.
Yeah. Look at you, water drinking badass. Go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah. I think people too just don't celebrate the small things that they do with enough enthusiasm too. I'm like, yeah, I did that, didn't I? Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. That is one of the foundation things of coaching, is celebrating the small wins, no matter how ridiculously small it is. You did 5 minutes on the treadmill today?
Yeah, that's great. That's better than 0.
Fucking well done. You drank half of a Coke?
Yeah.
Fucking well done. You
Yeah.
had
There
to
are
drink the
people.
other half at 3 p.m. Beautiful. You drank 1 versus 2. Yeah, great. Fantastic.
We still won. I have plenty of people who like I walk and run with who are like, oh yeah, I only like run like a 12 or 13-minute mile. I'm like, forward is a speed, my friend. Like forward is a speed. Moving forward is or like so many people come into the running store. They're like, oh, I just walk. I'm like, that's so yeah, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, don't hate. I haven't said anything mean to you or anything. So don't like go ahead and throw yourself under the bus already. Why?
Yeah.
Why you
Yeah.
do that?
Because the inner critic's so terrible, and that's what I change for
Mm-hmm.
people. And because
Mm-hmm.
the inner critic will completely stop you and diminish, the I only. Oh, I
Yeah.
only. Really? Because there are people that don't do that at all. So only, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And I
yeah.
think you're probably in the camp too. And it sounds like we're like, you're great at cheering other people on, but then you go and sit by yourself. You're like, I suck at everything.
Oh, yeah.
I
Fucking
like it's like,
PhD.
oh, I can't believe I did this. Look at me. And I'm the person too. I'm like, I've only one run like I've got like I get so nervous about running marathons every time I just like show up to a marathon starting line. People are like, so you got it, Julianna. I'm like, and like if I was cheering on someone else, I'd be like, yeah, you got it. And I've done that a bunch of times. And like I show up to the starting line, I'm like, oh, yes, I'm a fail. This fucking sucks. Like I'm just like, I can't do this. And then people are like, yeah, you ran Boston a bunch of times. I'm like, so what? So
And me, I'm like, you fucking go. Boston, New York,
yeah,
Chicago, next is Tokyo, girlfriend. I cannot
yeah,
wait
yeah.
to see where that takes you. I would love to have you back
I would love to
during
come
the
back.
summer. I would love to have you back and we'll go off the rails together.
It'd be a fun time.
Yeah, no point to to the recording. I don't give a shit. I just like having you here.
Well,
So
that's a very high compliment. And I appreciate that.
I mean, thanks. Yeah. So you guys go link with Julianna below if you resonated with her, if she feels aligned to you, go check her out. She is doing a little more than most RDs do, which is you're getting the coaching with her as well,
Mhm.
which is worth its weight in gold. And I'm totally saying that because I'm biased. I am a coach. But I also know what it actually does for people. And it is life changing, life changing.
Oh
And
yeah,
so, she's a safe space. She shared that already. So if that's something that concerns you, I think we've, quelled those concerns. So all of her stuff will be linked below. If you are a YA freak, go check out
yeah,
her and Jeff's podcast. Apparently it's super interactive and you can, again, have that community, which I think is just, we're sorely lacking. The pandemic really kind of broke up a lot of communities and also strengthened a lot of communities, but it's
yeah,
time to get back. It's
yeah,
time to get
yeah,
back and not be hermits and trolls in bed rot all day. So
yeah,
there is that. Um, Thank you so much, my friend, for your
yeah,
energy and your time. And just, I loved it so much. And so thank you for being here. We're going to have her back, you guys. Give me a couple of months. She's going to Tokyo to run like a crazy person anyway
mm,
and laugh loudly in public to where
yes,
all of the, Japanese people will probably look at her like she's a crazy white American, which is true.
this is
So
true.
that's okay. And so, yeah, you guys go check her out. And thank you for being here. I just want to remind you, it takes just a few short minutes a day of mindfulness, of self-awareness, insight, and choice, honest choice
Hmm.
to rewire your life, to make it look completely different. And it doesn't mean starting, trashing everything that happens every day. It means looking like half a Coke instead
Yeah,
of a
have
full
to cook it
one.
in.
And that
I'll leave some with that. This is what I like to say to people too. It takes the same amount of energy to be mean as it does to be nice. So try and be nice today.
to yourself.
Yeah,
Start
and that doesn't mean to anyone outside your body. That could mean to you. That could mean to be your neighbor. That could be to that little inner critic. It's like you're
be
gonna
nice.
spend the same amount of money. Just use some of that same energy. Be nice. It's not gonna hurt you.
That's very true. Trolls, I hope you heard that
Yeah.
because that's coming for you in the comments.
Yeah. Oh,
So
I'm gonna bring those little tiny boots with me and those powdered wigs. So don't you worry. I'll
I'm
find
so
them.
I'm here for it. I'm going to laugh. I'm going to pee. That's how laugh out hard I'm going to laugh. I'm
Yes.
just ready. I'm ready for it. So,
Yes.
all right, my friends, stay tuned for another unhinged episode with Juliana in a few months, and
Yeah.
I can't wait for it. Have a
Yes.
great week, you guys. I love you, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.